Abigail, please, don't do this. My voice was barely above a whisper. My hands, rough, calloused, never quite free of the sawdust that had lived in my skin for years, reached for my wife's arm. Please don't leave me. I might be poor now, but I will work harder. I will make more money. I will find a way. Think about our daughters. They are still so young. They need their mother. Abigail turned slowly. She looked at me. Not with sadness, not with hesitation, with something colder than either. Get your hands off me, you poverty-stricken carpenter. She stepped free and straightened the gold lace of her outfit, the kind of expensive, hand-embroidered fabric that women in our community wore only for grand occasions. Her jewelry caught the afternoon sun. You smell of sawdust and failure. 12 years, Bio. 12 years of the same small house, the same worn-out life. I am tired. I have found someone better, someone rich, someone who will give me the life I deserve. 12 years, 6 daughters, and those words. Be honest, if your partner said that to you, what would you have done next? And the girls, I whispered, they will be fine. And she got into the car, and she drove away without looking back. The car turned the corner and disappeared. The dust it left behind settled slowly on my shoes. I was still kneeling in the road. Behind me, 6 daughters stood watching the empty street where their mother had been. This is my story, a man whose wife abandoned him and his 6 daughters for a life of luxury. A man who was mocked, who was broken, who kept going anyway. And the daughters who made the world take notice. Before we go further, please like and subscribe to this channel and drop a comment telling us where in the world you are watching from. Let's begin. In Freetown, Sierra Leone, I was that man. I was not a rich man, not a famous man, but I was a good man. And in a world that does not always reward goodness, that would be both my greatest strength and, for a time, my greatest burden. I had been married to my wife, Abigail, for 12 years. In those 12 years, God had given us 6 daughters, 3 sets of twins, arriving in pairs as if the universe wanted to make a point about abundance. Riina and Tina, the eldest, 10 years old. Riina was loud, fearless, the first to speak and the first to challenge anything she didn't understand. Tina was her opposite, quiet, watchful, the kind of child who sat in the corner of a room and saw everything others missed. Cordelia and Amelia, the middle twins, 8 years old. Cordelia was sharp and determined. When she decided something, she meant it with her whole chest. Amelia was warmer, more tender, the one who always checked whether everyone else was all right before thinking of herself. Emerson and Madison, the youngest, just 6. Emerson was already curious about money in a way most adults are not. She would ask me what things cost and then think seriously about the answer. Madison felt everything deeply, joy, pain, love, every emotion arrived on her face before she could hide it. 6 daughters, 3 sets of twins, and I loved every single one of them like breathing. I was a carpenter. Every morning at 5 o'clock, before Freetown had fully woken, I would rise quietly, splash cold water on my face, eat whatever small thing there was, and walk to my workshop at the edge of town. Just a wooden shed, old tools on the walls, sawdust thick on every surface, and the smell of fresh timber always in the air. But I moved through it like it was sacred ground. I would run my hands along a plank before cutting it, feeling for the grain. I would spend extra time smoothing edges no customer would ever see. I built things to last because I believed that whatever carried your name should hold. Abigail had once loved that about me. Would sit together in the evenings, while the girls slept and talk about ordinary things. The price of timber, the neighbor's new baby, what we would do when the business picked up. We were not rich. We did not own a car. Our house was small, but the house was warm with the kind of warmth that money cannot manufacture. Then, slowly, quietly, something began to change. I only learned what started it much later, pieced it together from things the girls mentioned and from what Abigail herself told me years after. It started in the market. Abigail began to see things she had always seen but never truly looked at. Women she had gone to secondary school with, Women who had been her equals just a decade ago were now arriving at the market in cars, expensive embroidered lace on their bodies, gold heavy on their necks and wrists. They picked up goods without checking prices and paid without flinching. Abigail always checked prices. She would look down at her own wrapper, the simple cloth she tied around herself each morning, faded from too many washes. Her slippers, worn flat at the heel. Her small basket of tomatoes arranged carefully, because careful arrangement could sometimes disguise how little there was. Something bitter began to grow in her chest. It came out in the evenings. I would be at the table working, and her voice would cut through the sound of my carving. Bio, why can't you do what other men are doing? Chief Admi's driver, even his driver owns a car now, 12 years, and we are still in this same small house. I would look up from my work, patience in my eyes, sawdust in my hair. Abigail, my dear, business is slow right now, but it will pick up. God will provide. Have patience. Patience. She said the word as if she were spitting it out. I have been patient for 12 years. I am tired of eating the same food. I am tired of wearing the same 3 wrappers. I am tired, Bio. In the corner of the room, 10-year-old Rena and 8-year-old Cordelia would exchange looks, the kind of look children develop when tension has become a familiar presence in their home. Rena would sometimes try, "Mama, we are fine. We have food. Papa is trying his best." Abigail would wave her hand. "You children don't understand. You are too young. You don't know what it means to live like this." And I would say nothing. Just return to my carving. Keep working, keep hoping. What else could I do? I was not there when Owumi walked back into Abigail's life. I learned what happened from Abigail herself, years later, after it had all run its course. But I have replayed it so many times in my mind that it feels almost like memory. One afternoon at the market, a sleek black car pulled up beside Abigail's vegetable stall. The door opened and out stepped a woman in red. Expensive red lace with gold embroidery, designer sunglasses, heels that clicked on the pavement with authority. "Abigail?" The woman lowered her sunglasses. "Is that really you?" Abigail squinted, then recognition arrived. "Owumi from secondary school." "Yes." Owumi laughed and walked over, her heels clicking. "My goodness, Abigail, what are you doing here, selling vegetables like this?" Shame hit Abigail like cold water. She looked at her faded wrapper, her worn hands, her small basket. "Owumi, you know how life is. We are just managing." "Managing?" Owumi tilted her head, something between sympathy and amusement in her eyes. "But you were one of the smartest girls in our class. Beautiful, intelligent, and now look." She said it gently. It still landed like a slap. "My husband is a carpenter," Abigail said, her voice shrinking. "We have 6 daughters. It is not easy." Owumi reached into her designer handbag and produced a card. "There is a party this Saturday. Big men will be there. Businessmen, politicians, chiefs. Come with me. Let me introduce you to people who can change your life." Abigail stared at the card. She knew exactly what kind of parties Owumi meant. Everyone in Freetown knew what kind of life Owumi lived, and how she lived it. But the seed of discontent had been growing for years, and now it was ready to flower. She took the card. "That Saturday, Abigail told me she was visiting an old friend." "Which friend?" I asked. "Should I come with you?" "No." Too quickly, then softer. "It is just a woman from my school days. We are only catching up." I nodded. I trusted my wife. "Don't stay too late. The girls will miss you." She did not come home until 3 in the morning. I did not know where she had been. I only learned what happened at that party much later. The party was on the penthouse floor of a luxury hotel in the city. Champagne flowing. Music. Men in agbadas, the flowing robes that wealthy men in West Africa wear at celebrations, laughing too loudly about money. Women in glittering dresses moving through the room like they owned it. Abigail had never seen anything like it. Something cracked open inside her and filled with want. Chief Okono was a large man in every sense, tall, broad, well-fed on success. He owned construction companies and held government contracts. He drove 3 different cars depending on his mood, and he noticed Abigail the moment she walked in. "You are a very beautiful woman," he said, offering her a glass of champagne. "What is your name?" "Abigail." "Abigail." He repeated it slowly, like he was tasting it. "Are you married?" She hesitated for only a moment. "No," she said, "I am single." By the end of the night, Chief Okono had pressed 20,000 naira into her hand, roughly $13 by today's exchange, but at the time the equivalent of more than 2 months of everything I brought home from the workshop. He also gave her his number and a slow smile. "Call me, I want to see you again." When Abigail came home at 3 in the morning, I was in the living room. I had been awake the whole time. My eyes were red. "Where have you been?" I was sick with worry. "I told you, I was with a friend. Stop being dramatic." I noticed her hair restyled, a new perfume that wasn't hers, a handbag I had never seen before. "Abigail, what is going on?" "Nothing. I am tired. Leave me alone." 6-year-old Madison appeared in the doorway, rubbing her eyes. "Mama, where did you go?" "Go back to bed," Abigail said sharply, without turning. I crossed the room, lifted my daughter into my arms, and carried her back down the hall. Behind me, Abigail did not turn to watch. She was already thinking about when she would see the chief again. I did not know that yet, but I would come to understand it in time. Over the following months, Abigail changed entirely. She came home later and later. Sometimes not at all. When she did appear, she would be wearing new things. Blouses I had never seen, shoes she had not bought from any market I knew. A gold bracelet that caught the light. Chief Okono was buying her a life piece by piece. "Where is this money coming from?" I asked one evening, my voice low. "Mind your business," she said. "Focus on your carpentry and leave me alone." She stopped cooking for the family, stopped helping with school uniforms and hair. Some nights she did not come home at all, and I would hear Emerson and Madison crying softly in their room, calling for their mother. I would go in and lie beside them and sing until they slept. The neighbors talked. They always talk. "That is the man whose wife left him for Chief Okono." "Your wife is driving a car now. When will you buy your own?" "That man must have done something terrible. Why else would a wife leave like that?" "That woman has no shame, leaving those children." I heard every word. I said nothing. I just kept working. Then came the Saturday afternoon that changed everything forever. I was in the front yard repairing a chair when a black Honda turned slowly into the street. Neighbors appeared in doorways. Curtains shifted in windows. Abigail stepped out of the car. She was dressed for an occasion that had not been announced. Gold lace, new and elaborate, gold at her neck and wrists. She moved as though she had rehearsed this moment, which perhaps she had. The girls had been inside. Rena helping Cordelia with homework. Tina reading in the corner, her nose in a book as always. Emerson showing Madison something in a drawing she had made. They all heard the car and came out. "Bio." Abigail's voice was loud enough for the whole street to hear. "I am leaving." The yard went quiet. "Abigail." I stood up slowly. My voice shook. "Please, not here. Please don't do this. I have found someone better, someone who can actually provide, not a poverty-stricken man who smells of sawdust and has nothing to show for 12 years of so-called hard work." "Mama," 10-year-old Rena stepped forward, "what is happening?" "I am going to live with Chief Okono. He has a proper house, a big house, not this poverty cage." "Mama, please." Tina grabbed her mother's arm, quiet Tina, who never grabbed anything. "Please don't go." 8-year-old Cordelia started crying. Amelia held her twin and cried with her. Emerson buried her face in my leg, and Madison, little Madison, who felt everything, ran toward her mother with her arms wide open. "Mama, Mama, don't go, please, Mama." I fell to my knees. Not dramatically, my legs simply gave way. I grabbed the hem of Abigail's wrapper, a broken man with sawdust on his hands and tears running down his face. "Abigail, I am begging you, 12 years. Think about our daughters. Whatever I have done wrong, I will fix it. I will change. Please." She looked down at me. There was something in her eyes, not sorrow, not guilt, irritation. "Get off me, you poverty-stricken man." She kicked my hands away and turned toward the car. Madison was still running to her. My 6-year-old reached the door just as her mother was pulling it shut. "Mama, Mama, look at me." The car reversed, turned, drove away. Madison stood in the road and watched it go. Then she turned around. The look on her face, that small, bewildered, broken face, was something I would carry in my chest for the rest of my life. 6 daughters stood in the dust and wept. The neighbors watched in silence, and I knelt with my arms around as many of them as I could reach, all 7 of us crying together, none of us knowing yet what we were capable of becoming. That night was the longest night of my life. I held my 6 daughters as they cried themselves to sleep, all of them asking the same questions over and over. "Papa, why did Mama leave us? Doesn't Mama love us anymore?" I had no answers. I just held them tight and cried with them. Should a mother ever walk away from her children for money? Tell me your honest answer in the comments, because people are divided on this. After Abigail left, I had no choice but to become everything. I was a carpenter, a cook, a braider of hair, a laundryman, a homework supervisor, a comforter of nightmares, a father and a mother now, in one body. 1 man, 6 daughters. And most days I was not entirely sure I was enough. Mornings were the hardest. I would rise at 4 o'clock while the town was still dark. Light the kerosene stove, boil water. Make gari, a thick, filling porridge made from dried cassava that many families in West Africa depend on, with ground nuts on the side, sometimes just bread and tea, whatever the week allowed. Then I would wake the girls one by one, because they each required different handling. Rena woke immediately and began organizing her sisters. Tina surfaced slowly, already reaching for her book before her eyes were fully open. Cordelia would argue every single morning, without exception, that she needed 5 more minutes. Amelia would not move until she had checked that all 5 of her sisters were all right. Emerson woke alert and full of questions. "Papa, what time is it? Is my uniform dry? Can I have more bread?" And Madison would press her face into my chest and hold on a little longer than the others, not quite ready to face the world yet. But the mornings also had their breaking points. Little Emerson, 6 years old, would sometimes cry before she was fully awake. "Papa, where is Mama? Why doesn't Mama help us anymore?" I would kneel beside her and hold her face in my hands. "Papa is here, my dear. Papa is here." Then I would put a smile on my face and move to the next thing, because the next thing always needed doing. Then came the hair, 6 heads. My carpenter hands were not built for braiding, and my lines were never straight. Rena never complained, even when it pulled. Cordelia would look into the cracked mirror and release a slow, dignified sigh, which was fair, and which I endured without protest. And then came the problem of getting them to school. School was far. I had no car, and I could not afford transport for 6 children every morning. So I found the only solution a man with no other options can find: the wheelbarrow. I would load 3 girls in and push them down the road, then run back for the other 3. 3 trips each morning, sometimes in the heat, sometimes in the rain. The first day I did it, Emerson thought it was an adventure. "Papa, push faster." Madison gripped the sides with wide eyes. Cordelia held herself upright and decided on the spot that if this was happening, she would at least make it look intentional. But the neighbors saw, and the neighbors laughed. Look at him, pushing his daughters like they are bags of cement. 6 daughters and not even bus fare to transport them properly. His wife was smart to leave. Who wants to suffer like this? Rena heard every word from inside the wheelbarrow. Her jaw tightened. She said nothing. Madison pulled her knees to her chest and hid her face in her hands. Then there was the morning a wealthy woman's car slowed to a stop beside us on the road. She lowered her window and looked at me, at the wheelbarrow, at my 3 daughters sitting inside it, at my hands gripping the handles. Then she looked back at me. "Is this how you are transporting your children? In a wheelbarrow?" I stopped, breathing hard. "Yes, Ma. This is what I can afford for now." She shook her head slowly. "This is shameful. These children should be in a proper vehicle." Then she delivered the final blow, clearly, loud enough for all the street to hear. "No wonder your wife left you. She was tired of this embarrassing life." Her window went up. Her car pulled away. My daughters had heard every word. I could feel it in the silence coming from the wheelbarrow behind me. I later learned from Rena what happened when they arrived at school that day. She gathered her 5 sisters together during break time. All of them, Tina, Cordelia, Amelia, Emerson, Madison, standing in a circle. "Listen to me," Rena said, her voice firm beyond her 10 years. "We are going to study harder than anyone else in this school. We are going to become something great. And one day, we are going to buy Papa a car. No, not just a car. We are going to build him a big house. We are going to make sure nobody ever mocks him again." Cordelia nodded without hesitation. "We will make Papa proud." Emerson, tears still in her eyes from the morning, said quietly, "I don't want Papa to push us in the wheelbarrow anymore. I want to buy him a bus. A big bus." From that day, something changed in all 6 of them. I did not know it yet. But it had already started. If you've ever been laughed at while doing your absolute best, drop a comment below. You are not alone. And neither were we. One afternoon, on the walk home, Rena finally said what she was feeling. "Papa, people are laughing at us." "I know, my daughter. It hurts." I stopped walking. I crouched down until I was eye level with her. My hands were cracked and rough, but my eyes were steady. "Let them laugh," I said quietly. "The wheelbarrow does not care what they say. And one day, when you are something great, you will look back and understand that how you started means nothing, only where you finish." Rena looked at me for a long moment. Then she nodded. The carpentry business was slow. Some months I made just enough. Some months, not even that. There were nights when the girls were asleep and the house was quiet, and I would sit alone at the table with a single kerosene lamp throwing orange light across my hands. I would stare at those hands, blistered, calloused, stained with wood finish that never fully washed out. I would ask the question every suffering man asks in the dark. Is this worth it? Will anything ever change? And then I would hear something, a cough from the girls' room, the shuffle of small feet, one of them turning in her sleep, and the question would answer itself. I would open my notebook, calculate costs, food, school fees, soap, kerosene. I would cross out everything not essential. I ate smaller portions so the girls could have more. I wore the same 2 trousers until the hems frayed. I did not buy new shirts for 3 years, but my daughters went to school every single day. No matter how bad the week had been, no matter how heavy my legs felt, I got them there. Because education, I told them every night before they slept, was the only inheritance I could truly give them. No matter how hard tonight is, tomorrow you will go to school, promise me. And 6 voices would promise. At school, they kept that promise with everything they had. Tina sat in the library during break time. Rena would finish her work early and find harder problems to solve. Cordelia's teachers said she argued better than students twice her age. Amelia stayed after class for extra questions. Emerson calculated everything, always. And Madison filled her notebooks with careful drawings, the world as she saw it, rendered in quiet, precise lines. Their teachers noticed. These 6, one remarked to another, are something different. By the time Rena and Tina were 15, something shifted. The state government had announced a major project. A new government secondary school was to be built in Freetown. Classroom furniture, office furniture, dormitory furniture, everything. Local carpenters were invited to submit proposals. I heard about it at the market. I went very still when I heard it. The way a man goes still when something important arrives. That night, I did not sleep. I sat at the table and worked out costs on paper. I drew designs. I calculated timber, workers, time. My hands shook slightly as I wrote. This was bigger than anything I had ever attempted, bigger than anything I had imagined attempting. 15-year-old Rena found me there at 2 in the morning. "Papa, why aren't you sleeping?" I showed her the papers. She sat down and read everything carefully, in that serious way of hers. She never spoke until she had understood all of it. "You need to submit this," she said. "Rena, it is a very big contract. There will be large workshops bidding. Men with more workers, better equipment." "Papa." Her voice was firm, the way it always was when she had made up her mind. Your furniture is the best in this town. Everyone knows it. You need to submit this." She saved money from selling oranges after school and used it to type up the proposal at a business center. She sat beside me and chose which photographs to include, rejecting any that didn't show my craftsmanship clearly. "This one," she said, pointing to a photo of a school desk. "Look at the joints. Perfect. They will see that." On the day of the presentation, I put on my best shirt. It was old and faded at the collar, but clean and pressed. I walked into the room and saw the competition, big workshops with polished presenters and thick folders. I looked down at my few typed pages and photographs and felt very small. But when my name was called, I stood up. "I am a simple carpenter," I said. My voice was quiet enough that the room went still to hear me. "I do not have a big workshop. I do not have many workers. But if you give me this contract, I will put everything I have into it. Every piece of furniture I make, I will ask myself one question. Would I be proud for my daughters to sit at this desk? Because that is the standard I build to. Not the standard of a businessman. The standard of a father." I placed my photographs on the table. The panel looked at them in silence. They saw the quality of the craftsmanship. They saw the calluses on my hands. They saw the sincerity in my eyes. They saw the faded shirt, worn with complete dignity. Do you think they gave it to me? Decide in the comments right now. Then keep watching to see if you were right. 3 days later, the letter arrived. I opened it alone at the table. Read the first line. My hands began to shake. I read it again. Then I sat down on the floor. When the girls came home from school and found me there, Rena's face went pale with fear. "Papa, what happened? What is wrong?" I held up the letter. She crossed the room in 4 steps and read it. Her face changed entirely. "Papa," her voice cracked, "you got it." I got it. The room erupted. Tina, who never screamed, screamed. Cordelia grabbed Amelia and they spun in circles. Emerson climbed onto my back, and Madison pressed her face into my neck and cried the kind of tears that come when something big and important has finally shifted in the world. That night we had a proper feast, real chicken, rice and drinks. We sat around the table laughing and crying and talking over each other. "Papa," Tina said, her book for once, face down on the table. "Does this mean no more wheelbarrow?" I looked around at my 6 daughters. "No more wheelbarrow, I promise." I worked that first contract like a man possessed. I hired workers, young men from the town who needed jobs, whom I trained carefully and treated fairly. I rented a bigger workshop. I bought better tools. I was up at 4 in the morning and not home until 9 at night, 7 days a week for 8 months. The furniture I produced for that school was exceptional. Every joint clean, every surface smooth, every piece built with the same silent question. Would I be proud for my daughters to sit here? The government officials who came to inspect walked through the classrooms running their hands along the desks. Who made these? The carpenter from the edge of town. Get me his number. A second contract followed, a hospital this time, larger than anything I had done before. I was 2 weeks from the delivery deadline when my timber supplier called. "I cannot fulfill the order. Another buyer made a better offer. I have already sold your stock." I stood in my workshop with the phone pressed to my ear. Around me, my workers were waiting. Half the hospital furniture was built. The other half needed wood that was no longer coming. I did not argue. I did not beg. I hung up the phone, picked up my keys, and drove out of Freetown. For 2 days, I traveled to every sawmill and timber yard within reach, calling ahead, showing up at gates, negotiating with anyone who would listen. I finally found a small sawmill an hour outside town that could supply what I needed, at a price that nearly wiped out my entire profit on the contract. I paid it without hesitation. I drove the timber back myself, loading it with my own hands, arriving at the workshop after midnight. My workers were still there, waiting. We finished the contract on time, every single piece. When the hospital director came to inspect, he walked through the wards and the offices and the consultation rooms in silence. Then he picked up the phone in front of me and called someone. "I have a man here you need to meet." The third contract came within the week, then a fourth, then a fifth. Word traveled the way good work eventually does. Not in announcements, but in quiet recommendations passed between people who trusted each other. If you want furniture that lasts, go to the carpenter from the edge of town. The money started coming in, slowly at first, then faster, then in a way that required a proper bank account and someone to help manage the books. The first thing I bought was a car. Not expensive, a used Toyota, clean and reliable. I drove it home on a Saturday morning. Madison saw it first. She froze, then she ran inside screaming, "Rena, come and see." They all poured out, 6 daughters standing in the street, staring at me behind the windscreen, grinning like I had been waiting my whole life for this moment. Which I had. Rena covered her mouth, her shoulders shaking. "Papa, you did it." "We did it. Get in, all of you. We are going to school." They piled in, far too many for the back seat. Emerson on Cordelia's lap, Madison on Amelia's. Tina pressed against the window with her book still in her hand, only noticing it once she was already seated. When we arrived at school that morning, the street fell quiet. "Is that him? The man who used to push his daughters in the wheelbarrow?" My daughters stepped out of the car one by one and walked through the school gate together, their father watching from behind the wheel with tears on his face. As the contracts grew larger and the reputation spread beyond Freetown, I made a decision I had been considering for 2 years. Lagos, Nigeria's commercial heartbeat, where the biggest contracts lived, where furniture could be sold not just to government offices, but to hotels, banks, corporations, and international businesses. My factory in Freetown had outgrown itself. I needed more space, more workers, more reach. I explained it to the girls one evening at the table. "We are moving to Lagos," I said. "Everything we have built here, we will build bigger there. The business has grown too large for Freetown to hold." "Which part of Lagos?" Cordelia asked immediately. She was always the one asking practical questions. "We will start somewhere modest," I said. Then I smiled. "But one day—" I did not finish the sentence. I did not need to. We relocated when Rena and Tina were 17. In Lagos, the business did not just grow, it transformed. I moved from carpentry to full furniture manufacturing. I opened a proper factory and employed 20 workers. My pieces began appearing in corporate lobbies, hotel suites, and government buildings across the country. My name became a brand. And still, every single piece was built to the same standard. Would I be proud for my daughters to sit here? The years moved quickly after that. Or perhaps it only feels quick when you are watching people flourish. Rihanna and Tina, now 20, graduated secondary school at the top of their class. Rihanna chose medicine. Tina chose law. I paid every fee without hesitation, the same man who had once skipped meals so my daughters could eat. When I dropped them at university for the first time, I held them through the car window and said, "Remember where you came from. Remember the wheelbarrow. Remember the mockery. Let it push you forward. But never look down on anyone who is struggling, because we have been there." Rena's brilliance in medicine earned her a full scholarship to complete her studies in the United Kingdom. When the letter arrived, she called me, barely able to speak. "Papa, I got a scholarship to study in the UK, a full scholarship." I sat down wherever I was standing. I did not try to compose myself. "Go," I said when I could speak. "Go and show them that a girl who was pushed to school in a wheelbarrow can compete with anyone in the world." Tina earned a scholarship for her master's degree in Canada. Cordelia graduated top of her law class and joined one of Lagos's most prestigious firms. Amelia qualified as a doctor and was hired by a leading hospital. And Emerson and Madison, the youngest twins who had grown up watching me build something from absolutely nothing, started a fashion company together with seed capital I gave them and business instincts that seemed born into them. Within 3 years, their brand was in international magazines. Celebrities wore their designs. 6 daughters, 6 different paths, 6 stories that all began in the same old wheelbarrow. It was Rena who said it first, on a video call with all 5 of her sisters. "Sisters, it is time." Nobody asked what she meant. They all knew. They had made the promise when Rena was 10 years old, gathering her sisters at a school gate after a woman mocked their father in the road. We are going to build Papa a big house. We are going to make sure nobody ever mocks him again." Each of them contributed. Rena and Tina from abroad, Cordelia and Amelia from their salaries, Emerson and Madison from the fashion business. And they did not build a house. They built a mansion in Lekki, one of the most prestigious neighborhoods in all of Lagos, Nigeria. White and wide and beautiful, with a long driveway, a garden, a swimming pool that caught the afternoon light, 6 bedrooms, 1 for each daughter, a mahogany study with floor-to-ceiling bookshelves and a reading lamp, a kitchen with every appliance, a living room large enough for all of us to be home at once, which was the whole point. Above the main gate, they installed a golden plaque, Bayo's house, built by his 6 daughters, in gratitude for a father who never gave up. For the reveal, they told me they were taking me to a business meeting in Lagos. I dressed in my good suit, the one I had bought after my 3rd major contract. My hands still bore the old scars and calluses, and I was proud of them. They blindfolded me playfully at the gate. "What is this nonsense?" I laughed. But I allowed it. They led me to the entrance. All 6 gathered around me, Rena and Tina at 30, down to Emerson and Madison at 26. "Ready?" Madison asked from my left. "Ready," Rena said. They removed the blindfold. I read the plaque, every word. Then I looked at the mansion, then at my 6 daughters. My legs gave way. I had knelt in the dust of that yard in Freetown once, begging my wife not to leave. I knelt now in this driveway, and the distance between those 2 moments was everything I had ever suffered and everything I had ever built. All 6 daughters knelt with me. "Papa," Rena said through her tears, "do you remember the wheelbarrow?" I could not speak. "Do you remember how they laughed at you?" I nodded. "This house," Tina said, "is our answer to all of them." They helped me to my feet and led me inside. I walked through every room in silence, touching door frames, standing in the study for a long time, running my hand across the mahogany desk. When we reached the compound garden, I stopped. In a glass case near the far wall stood the old wheelbarrow, rusted, battered, carrying the marks of every single morning. "You brought it," I whispered. "We will never throw it away," Emerson said. "We want your grandchildren to see it. We want them to know that success is not about where you start." Madison took my arm and leaned against me the way she always had, even at 6 years old. "It is about refusing to give up," she said quietly. I only learned the full truth of what had happened to Abigail much later. Some of it I heard from the girls. Some of it came from Abigail herself when she finally sat across from me at that dining table. For 3 years after leaving me, she had lived well. Chief Okono had set her up nicely. The apartment, the car, restaurants, trips to Ghana and Dubai. She did not think about me. She did not think about her daughters. She had stepped out of that life and closed the door firmly behind her. Then the chief's wife found out. She was not a quiet woman. She went to the chief's family. She caused scenes at public events. She made his life very difficult. And Chief Okono, who had always valued his peace above everything, made a calculation. He called Abigail one evening, his voice smooth and completely final. "This is not working. My wife is making trouble and I need peace in my home. The apartment lease ends this month. I am not renewing it. Keep the car, the papers are in your name, but do not contact me again." The line went dead. Abigail stood in the apartment and looked around at everything she had accumulated. For the first time, none of it felt like hers. She tried. She went to other parties. She found other men. But she was in her late 30s now, and the world she was trying to enter preferred younger women. Each man was less wealthy than the last. The money drained slowly. She sold the car to pay rent, sold the jewelry to buy food, sold everything until there was nothing left to sell. She moved back toward Freetown, then to a cheaper neighborhood, then to a single small room in a neighborhood she had once driven past without looking. She was exactly where she had started, except that now there was no husband, no daughters, no family, no safety net. She had exchanged all of those things for 3 years of luxury, and she was paying the full price. She heard about my success in pieces. Someone mentioned the furniture company. Someone else said the girls were all in universities. She saw a magazine feature on Emerson and Madison's fashion brand. She read every word. Shame ate at her from the inside. Then one morning, she was at a newsstand, and a headline stopped her completely. From wheelbarrow to mansion, the inspiring story of a father and his 6 daughters. She bought the paper. She sat on a bench at the side of the road and read every word. She looked at the photograph for a long time. Me in a good suit, surrounded by 6 beautiful, accomplished women. All of them smiling, all of them whole, the family she had walked away from. She folded the paper, put it in her bag, and wept quietly on the bench while people walked past without stopping. The bus to Lagos took most of what remained of her money. When she arrived in Lekki and stood outside our gate, she almost turned back. The mansion was exactly as grand as the newspaper had shown. The golden plaque gleamed above the entrance in the afternoon light. Bayo's house, built by his 6 daughters. She looked down at her own clothes, faded, plain, her hands bare of all jewelry, roughened now by the kind of work she had once escaped. She was standing in front of the life that could have been hers. The security guard watched her approach. "Yes? Can I help you?" "I need to see the family," she said quietly. "Tell them..." She paused. "Tell them their mother is at the gate."
Please,
Pause right here.
Daughters.
Should I have opened that gate or shut it forever?
Outside.
Pick a side in the comments. Don't stay silent. Inside, we were having Sunday lunch. All 6 daughters had come home that weekend, as they did once a month, the gathering that had become our most important tradition. The table was full of food and noise, and the comfortable argument that always filled a room when 6 strong-willed women shared it. I sat at the head of the table, watching my daughters with the quiet satisfaction of a man who had built something real. The guard appeared in the doorway. "There is a woman at the gate. She says she is your mother." The table went silent. Forks stopped midway to mouths. Tina's book lay on the chair beside her, forgotten for the first time all weekend. Emerson and Madison looked at each other. I stared at my plate. "What do we do?" Cordelia asked. "Send her away," Tina said, level, certain. "She has no right to be here." "Let her in," Amelia said softly. "Let her see what she missed. Let her see what we built without her." "Papa," Rena looked at me, "it is your decision." I was quiet for a long moment. "Let her in," I said. "We will hear what she has to say." Abigail walked the long driveway slowly. She passed the garden, the swimming pool. She saw the glass case near the far wall and the battered wheelbarrow inside it. And she had to stop walking for a moment. She entered the dining room. She saw me at the head of the table, older, heavier with dignity, well-dressed in the way of a man who has truly earned his comfort. And she saw her 6 daughters, who were no longer little girls. Rena and Tina were 30 years old. Cordelia and Amelia were 28. Emerson and Madison were 26. Women, all of them looking at her. She had given birth to these women. She did not know them. Her legs gave way. She fell to her knees right there in the doorway. "I am sorry," she sobbed. "I am so sorry. I made a terrible mistake. I was foolish. I was greedy. I destroyed our family. Please forgive me. Please." Nobody spoke. She moved forward on her knees, tears streaming down her face, until she reached the table. "Bayo, I know I have no right. I know I left you when you needed me most. I chose money over my family. I was wrong. I was completely wrong." She turned to her daughters. "My babies, my beautiful daughters. Look at what you have become. I am so proud." "Stop." Rena's voice cut across the room, not loud, just final. "You are proud of us. You have no right to be proud of us. We are not your achievement. We are Papa's. He is the one who raised us. He pushed us to school in a wheelbarrow while you were riding in the chief's car. He skipped meals so we could eat while you were eating in restaurants. He braided our hair with carpenter's hands. He cried with us at night when we asked where you were. He was our mother and our father every single day for 20 years. Abigail wept. I know, I am sorry." Tina spoke next. Quiet, measured Tina, whose words always arrived slowly and landed precisely. "Sorry is not enough. Do you know what it did to us?" Cordelia had nightmares for years after you left. Years. She was 8 years old. I stopped speaking properly for months. We were children, and you drove away. Cordelia's jaw was tight. You want us to forget that? And then Madison spoke. The youngest, the most sensitive, the one who had run after the car at 6 years old. I am 26 years old, she said, her voice very quiet, and I still remember the day you left. I remember running to the car. I remember calling your name, and I remember that you did not look back. Not once. I was 6 years old, Mama, and you did not look back. The room held that sentence like it was made of glass. I finally spoke. Abigail. I said her name without anger, without bitterness. Both were expensive things that I had long since put down. I forgave you years ago, not for your sake, for mine. Anger was destroying me, and I chose to let it go. But forgiveness is not the same as reconciliation. I forgave you, and I moved on. I built a life. My daughters built lives. You were not part of any of it. And that is simply the truth of what happened. Please, she begged, I have nowhere to go. I have nothing. Let me come back. Let me be part of this family again. You stopped being part of this family the day you drove away, I said quietly. That day, I became this family, their mother and their father. I braided their hair. I attended every school meeting. I held them when they were sick. I celebrated every achievement, alone. You have no claim to any of it. Rena looked at her sisters. A silent conversation passed between 6 women who had spent their whole lives learning to understand each other without words. Then she looked at Abigail. We will not throw you into the street. We are not heartless. That is not who our father raised us to be. Abigail looked up, a flicker of hope. We will rent a small apartment for you. We will send money every month for food and your basic needs. You will not go hungry. You will not sleep in the road. But, Tina continued, understand this clearly. You will not live in this house. You will not sit at this table. You will not be introduced to anyone as our mother. We are helping you because we are kind people, not because of love, not because you are owed anything. Abigail's face crumpled entirely. This was worse than rejection. This was mercy given without warmth, the most painful kind of all. That is our offer, Cordelia said simply. Take it or leave it. What if I refuse? Abigail asked, her voice cracking. What if I beg you, truly beg you, to let me back fully? Then you get nothing, Emerson said simply, and you return to your room. Silence. I accept, Abigail whispered. The daughters looked at me. I nodded once. Then I rose quietly from the table and walked to the window. I stood with my back to the room, looking out at the garden, at the glass case near the far wall. The old wheelbarrow, rusted, battered, still carrying the marks of all those mornings, all those roads, all those years of pushing forward when pushing forward was the only thing left to do. Behind me, I could hear the daughters beginning to clear the table. The quiet clink of plates, someone asking if there was more water, the ordinary sounds of a family continuing. I had carried my daughters in that wheelbarrow once, through mockery, through dust, through a world that laughed at me and expected nothing from me. I had carried them all the way here, and here they were. Tell me your verdict. Was justice served today, or should forgiveness have gone further? Share this story with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe so you never miss what comes next.